Hey, what's going on, guys? FalconePunch 55 here once again, and it has finally been announced. Mean Streets of Karazhan will be with us at the start of December with a new game board, and I think they said 132 new cards. So, you know, we got a full-on new pack expansion. But we already knew that. I'm gonna run you through all of the cards that were announced today and the new stuff that we can expect to get with this expansion. So without further ado, let's dive right in. I want to say straight away that I absolutely love the tone to this expansion. I particularly get excited when they announce the new things, because they have the new song and the new trailer. I thought Karazhan's was fantastic. They don't disappoint with these. Blizzard do a great job with the cinematics and just getting you in the mood for what's about to happen. We have a very kind of mafia boss style thing with three main families that run Gadgetzan, and we're going to be talking a little bit about those in a future video, but for now we're going to just get to the nitty gritty, the cards and the mechanics themselves. It's safe to say the main new thing that's been introduced so far with the families is that there are going to be class cards that can be played in 3 different classes. You've got like 3 different groupings. So, for example, Mage, Priest, and Warlock is one grouping, and there will be class cards that can be played in all 3 of those classes and none of the others. The other 2 groupings are Druid, Rogue, and Shaman, and obviously finally Hunter, Paladin, and Warrior. And it's very, very cool. Real basic stuff. I'm going to start with these cards because they're some of the most exciting. And I think this is probably the coolest because it's the cheapest. We have Grime Street Informant. And its battle cry is that you can discover a Hunter, Paladin, or Warrior card when this guy gets played. And what's really cool about this is they announced during the panel that every time you play this card, so it's like a normal discover, but one of the cards will be Hunter, one of the cards will be Paladin, and one of the cards will be Warrior. So you're guaranteed a choice between all 3 classes every time. Now, I have not had the time to crunch the numbers, look at the variables here, and work out in what way this is going to be good and what way it might not be so great. But this is just such a cool mechanic. Mixing up the Hearthstone classes, it's going to add so many new dynamics to the game. It's difficult to predict exactly what sort of effect this is going to have. Stat-wise, obviously, 2 mana 1/1, not great, but it's not really, the stats don't really matter. The whole point of this card is its effect. I believe that Discover cards go down pretty well in Arena, so it's just very similar to Jeweled Scarab, right? It's very, very easy to compare to Jeweled Scarab. It's not going to guarantee you something you can curve into, but it's still, you know, this card is going to be awesome. And again, I don't think I have the little label on the screen right now. I haven't worked out how I'm going to do that with videos just yet, but this card can only be played in Hunter, Paladin, and Warrior. It's exclusive to those classes. Much like, next up, the Cabal Courier. Same deal, 3 mana 2/2, gains 1 health, gains 1 attack, gains 1 mana cost than the previous card. Again, stats really not relevant here. This guy is going to summon you Mage, Priest, or Warlock. It's so cool. I mean, minions, spells. I can't quite comprehend in what way these cards are going to get used. I may as well bring up the final card on screen here, Lotus Agents. 5 mana 5/3, slightly different stat distribution. Instead of a 5 mana 4/4, it's 5/3, so gain 1 attack, lose 1 health. But again, stats maybe matter a little bit more to this one because it's expensive, but Druid, Rogue, or Shaman. It's so difficult to know which of these cards are going to be good, which of these cards are going to be bad, what they're going to do. Obviously, especially with Discover cards, it's difficult to know everything until we've seen the full set, because there may be some pretty dramatically good and dramatically bad class cards being released. We just don't know yet. So a lot of what I'm going to say in these first thought videos probably won't even be accurate at all, but judging on the card pool we've got so far. But even so, these cards are just impossible really to analyze, so we're just going to come back to them a little bit later on, I think. The final card that has been announced as of this time, I mean, things are getting announced constantly, I doubt that I'll get them all in this video, is Kazukus. I hope I said that wrong. Kazukus. 4 mana 3/3. If your deck has no duplicates, which I assume is what Reno's new card text will be once this expansion comes out, create a spell. And this is mind-bogglingly exciting to me. So the way Kazukus is going to work is that you get to choose whether you're creating a 1 mana spell, a 5 mana spell, or a 10 mana spell. And then you get to discover 2 attributes for the spell, depending on which cost you've chosen. So for example, the draw attribute, if you go for the 1 mana spell, it'll be draw 1 card. If you go 5 mana, it'll be draw 2 cards. If you go 3 mana, it'll be draw 10 cards. But then it gets better, because after that, you choose a second attribute, which could be deal 6 damage to all enemy minions if you've gone for the 10 mana route. Which means at this stage, it's a 10 mana spell that draws you 3 cards and possibly deals 6 damage to all enemy minions. That was one of the things we were shown. Or something crazy like that. Apparently, you can get 1 mana spells that draw you a card and gain 4 armor. Or something crazy like that. These things, I should hopefully have some of them popping up on the screen right now, some of these traces, but this card is mind-bogglingly good. It's going to be insane in... Oh, sorry, I should point out, this guy can only be played in, I believe it was Mage, Priest, and Warlock decks. But like Reno Lock, this card is going to be so strong in Reno Lock. Worth noting, Reno is going to rotate out of the meta the beginning of next year, so there's only going to be a very short space of time where these cards overlap. But while Reno and Kazalkas is going to be in the meta, I have a feeling we're going to be seeing a lot of Reno Kazalkas decks. Okay, well, that's the really crazy stuff out of the way. I'm just going to go through the rest of the cards now pretty hastily and give you a first impression of them. Piranha Launcher, I think this card is really bad. Like, it's a 5 mana, 2 attack hunter weapon. Hunter, very, very aggressive class. The slowest it gets is kind of mid-rangey. You don't really get any control hunters around. There's no way you can afford to spend 5 mana on a 2 attack weapon. Even warriors can't do that. We've seen that with tentacles for arms. It's just this isn't, it's not, the stat line is not okay. Summoning a 1/1 every time you attack is just, it's no good. It's 4 1/1s. And 2 attack per attack for 5 mana. It's just not good enough. It's too slow. This card, I don't think this card will see play. Lotus Assassin, I think, is very, very cool. It's Stranglethorn Tiger, but with an upside where every time it kills something, it restarts itself. I think it's going to be a little bit too slow for Rogue, at least the Rogue we have at the moment. Great card in Arena. Fantastic card in Arena. And great in any sort of mid-rangey decks. But Rogues don't tend to play mid-range. They play tempo. They're all about getting stuff out as quickly as possible, comboing all of your cards together. And this card, while it seems powerful, doesn't quite fit in with the generic Rogue playstyle. That may be changing a lot, depending on what other class cards, merged class cards, Ethereal Peddler style cards we see. But at the moment, Lotus Assassin isn't quite good enough to be seen in any of the rogues we have right now. But that's not to say there won't be new rogues which work perfectly with this card soon. Cabal Talon Priest. I mean, okay, look, the similarities between this card and Dark Cultist are uncanny. It's exactly the same card, except this time around you get a battle cry rather than a death rattle. Personally, I think there are pros and cons to that. Obviously, with the battle cry, I think the first thing that you'll notice straight away is that, you get to choose the target, whereas Cultist was random. This guy actually gets to choose which minion gets the health. That's the pro. The downside is that you're not gonna get this out very regularly early. So like, priests don't have good enough, like 1 or 2 drops. Yes, okay. Northshire Cleric, maybe Twilight Whelp. But the point is, if there's no minion on the board, you're not going to get any value out of this. Whereas previously, you could coin out a Dark Cultist on turn 2, then play another one on turn 3, or play any other minion and be guaranteed the value. That's not going to be so easy to pull off with this one. However, the fact that you do get to choose which target gets the extra health means that later on into the game, when you've already got a more established board, this guy could be pretty good. It's definitely a step in the right direction for Priest, an early game minion that does something. And, you know, Dark Cultist has been sorely missed, so Priest is going to be happy to have this back. Or have a minion like this back. I know a guy, a 1 mana Discover a Taunt minion. Now, you know, Discover cards are pretty good. It's got to be said, in Control Warrior, it's possible that this could see some play, because it's a Discover card. Like, Raven Idol is a Discover card. It's very, very specific, so you're only getting Taunt minions here. Unfortunately, there are a lot of bad Taunt minions and there aren't so many good ones. Yes, this guy could get you Sogoth the Slitherer in the Control Warrior that you really want, but there are so many bad Taunts, like Pompous Thespian. Senjin Shieldmaster isn't even good enough anymore. Booty Bay Bodyguard's bad. Sparring Partner's pretty bad. I think there are so many bad options for this. I might be wrong. Again, I haven't crunched the numbers yet. I haven't, you know, mathematically gone through. I haven't analysed all of the options. But judging from what we know so far, I don't think this card's good enough to see play. I don't think it's going to be awful. Bolster isn't quite good enough, like, anyway. I don't think this is going to help bolster decks significantly. The 7/7, the what's it called? Obsidian thingamabobby, it isn't a taunt card itself, so I don't think this can this can give you that either. So this card isn't, I don't think it's good enough. It's cool though. Again, I love the theming for this expansion. Big time Racketeer. Is it really bad that the first thing I thought when I saw this card was oh wow, Moonglade Portal gets a little bit of a nerf here. Like, I mean, Moonglade Portal can now get you a 1/1 minion. That's really bad. That actually influences the card in a pretty big way. Brings the averages way down. Anyway, the card itself is fine. It is technically 7/7 for 6 stats, but I don't think it's good enough. If you can get this off with Bran or something like that, then the card's going to be crazy. Like, you get 2 6/6s, but it's not going to be that easy to pull off. At the moment, I can't see it working in that many decks, but again, there's so many. It's so difficult for me to judge because we've only seen such a tiny sample of the set. They could bring in more cards that really help battle cries and therefore really make this card great. Second rate Bruiser. This card really reminds me of the card that came out in Whispers of the Old Gods, the taunt one. That's kind of like Sennian Shieldmaster. The more minions your opponent has, the cheaper this is. It doesn't have more health, it's cheaper. And that's cool. It could be a 3 mana 4/5 with taunt, which is great. Otherwise, 5 mana 4/5 with taunt is awful. I don't think it's going to be consistent enough to be good. Maybe in Arena, possibly, I don't know. But in Constructed, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but how often does your opponent have 3 minions on the board by turn 3? And if they do have 3 minions on the board already, is putting up a 4/5 going to be enough to stop that? Yeah, okay, it kind of stops their pressure for a bit, but if they have anything like Power Overwhelming or Swipe or something, it's not going to be enough. So I don't think Second Rate Bruiser is good enough, but I could be wrong. It's kind of, I can imagine it being okay. A card I think is absolutely great though is Patches the Pirate. Oh my goodness. So, okay, you can see what it does right there, but you have to kind of think of it this way. Don't look at it like a 1 mana 1/1. You have to look at it like it's basically a 0 mana 1/1 with charge. Okay, so as long as you don't draw it before you play a pirate, and you should realistically 95% of the time, you should be able to play this guy with its effect. As long as you play a pirate before you draw this guy, it's just 1 extra damage, absolutely free. If you're playing a pirate deck, you're never bothered about having less cards in your deck. Like, less cards in your deck is a good thing because it means you're more likely to draw the aggressive cards. And this card isn't even really in your deck. He allows you to run a 29 card deck that then grants you 1 extra damage the first time you play a pirate instantly. This card is great. It's fantastic. I honestly think, like, imagine it in today's Pirate Warrior. Completely bonkers. South Sea deckhand into this. That's 3 damage, potentially on turn 1 with a coin or turn 2. 4 damage if you played N'Zoth's first mate and you get the weapon attack as well. Crazy. Bonkers. It's also really good tempo on turn 1. I think this card's awesome. Kun, the Forgotten King. I'm just doing these in order that I'm seeing these, so sorry if they're a little bit jumbled up. But 10 mana 7/7, choose one, gain 10 armor, or get all of your mana back this turn. Which is awesome. It's difficult to know with these cards. Like, I thought Aviana would be huge when it first came out. Turned out that card wasn't quite good enough. Then again, Aviana into this is completely insane. Aviana, so 10 mana, you play Aviana, you play this for 1 mana, you get all your mana back, and you then play 8 10 mana minions. That's not going to happen, but you get the idea. Also, gaining 10 health is nothing to laugh at, really. Like, you're probably almost always going to go with the tempo play and gain the mana, but if you're really like low on health, there's nothing wrong with gaining 10 armor. I think the versatility of this card might actually make it good enough. I think it's okay. I think we can, you know, I think we will see this card see some play. And alright, I don't need to tell you, the FanDuel value, if you can get FanDuel to stick around and play this, is just, insane. You get the 10 armor for free, and then you get all of your mana back, and then you can play even more cards that synergize with Fandral. Fandral is really strong. Did you know Fandral is a strong card? This card looks like it's going to be pretty strong too. Potion of Madness. It's Shadow Madness, but cheaper. Ridiculously so, actually. This card costs 1 mana, and it's 2 attack or less. Shadow Madness costs 4 mana, and it's 3 attack or less. The mana difference is insane. Yeah, this card is really strong. Not quite as strong as Shadowword Paint, actually. But, you know, I can see this being played. It's a nice way of... Against aggro, this card's going to be awesome, right? Or an early mid-range deck. You turn 2 against a Hunter who's got Fiery Bat and King's Alec on the board. Fiery Bat and Big Bad Wolf. Or no, even better, Fiery Bat and Kindly Grandmother. You take control of the Grandmother, you hit it in. Yeah, you take a damage to the face, but then you got Big Bad Wolf on the board. I think this card actually definitely could see play, especially due to the low cost. Speaking of aggro decks, small-time recruits. Essentially, this is an aggro Paladin card, I think. 3 mana to draw 3 cards is good, but then is it too slow for an aggressive deck? It's kind of similar to Divine Favor, which is something that I like about it. You're definitely going to be able to slam your 1 mana minions down very quickly. There's no synergy with secrets or anything here, but you know, I think this card's not one that is like obviously good, but it's one that given the right other cards coming out, I think this card has real potential. And I think that it's something to be excited about, but I'm not anticipating it to be like top tier meta deck straight away. We'll have to wait and see. Now I'm looking at the Paladin Legendary. Now I think this card is really cool. I could be completely wrong. It feels like it doesn't have a good home, right? So Divine Shield, Taunt, it's like Tyrion. Imagine Tyrion minus the Ashbringer and for a lot cheaper. You deal damage with this guy, it heals your face, which would make it great like against aggro decks, but it's quite aggressive itself. 3 mana 2/2 with Divine Shield isn't bad, given its effect. It's actually really good against aggro because the opponent has to go through it, and any damage this deals, which should usually be 4. This guy will usually heal you for 4, unless something goes horribly wrong. Any damage it deals, they put your face. Yeah, it's great against aggro. Great tech for Paladin against an aggressive meta. It seems strong, actually. It seems really strong. I don't know if it's quite going to make it in to the big decks we know and love at the moment, whether it's quite good enough for Murloc Paladin, Azoth Paladin, etc, etc, but I think this card definitely has the potential to work really well in Paladin decks. If not now, definitely in the future, when other cards get rotated out and other cards join next year. Pilfered Power. This card seems insanely strong when you first look at it. Like, it's like Wild Growth on steroids, right? Imagine if you played 2 Living Roots first and then you play this. You gain 4 mana, 4. Obviously you don't gain the mana immediately, so it's a little bit slow. 3 mana is slower than Wild Growth. It is a little bit more situational, but this is the kind of card that could make Token Druid or something like that really great, or maybe even a more aggressive Druid deck. I don't know. This card seems insanely strong, but at the same time, it does seem a little bit slow. Again, it feels like it doesn't really know where its home is, because you'd think it'd fit really well in ramp decks, but ramp decks are less likely to spam the board early, so maybe it's more at home in tempo token decks, but then you don't want to waste 3 mana ramping up, so I don't know. I think this card is good. I don't want to stand here and say, yeah, it's going to be a 2-of in all Druid decks from now on. I don't think it's quite that good, but I think it is good. I think it will find a home. I'm just not sure exactly where that home is yet. We might have to wait to see what Jackie Chan comes up with. Draconid Operative. Okay, they really want to make Dragon Priest a thing again, it looks like. It's going to be a little rough once Blackrock Mountain rotates out next year, but in the meantime, Dragon Priest looking like it could be pretty strong. 5 mana, 5/6, not bad stats at all. And you discover a card from your opponent's deck, so this is arguably better than Thought Steal. You get to choose 3 cards, or you get shown 3 cards in your opponent's deck. That's something, right? You get to see what 3 cards in your opponent's decks are. So if you didn't know exactly what they were running before, you do now. And then you get to choose one of them and add it to your hand. You actually get to choose. That's crazy. This card is really strong. I think we're going to get some sort of value late game dragon priest deck rather than the tempo-y early game one we've had before. And that's really cool. I'm excited to see where we go with this deck. Fel Orc Soul Fiend, 3 mana, 3/7. Almost as strong as Injured Blade Master, and at the start of your turn, deal 2 damage to this minion. So, wow, when you first play it, it's a 3/7, but you kind of have to imagine it as a 3/5, because it is going to be a 3/5 by the time your next turn comes around. So if they deal 5 damage to it on their turn, it's going to die at the start of your turn. But, wow, it's strong, right? It's strong. It's a 3 mana, 3/5. If you can just get this to stick 1 turn and make an efficient trade, I think this card's okay. And in classes like Priest, where you can heal it back up again, it's potentially a really good early game drop that if you can just... Like, Priests generally spend a lot of the time without anything to play, right? If you can play this on turn 3 or 2 with the coin, you can literally spend the next few turns just hero powering this guy back up again, and it's okay. Again, not sure exactly how strong this is going to be. I don't know. I also don't know if these cards, by the way, some of these cards could be specific to a group of the 3 merged classes things. I wouldn't know yet. But this card seems like it could be good, right? Not incredible, should be good. It's one of those that looks like it's going to be really strong in Arena, especially if you can play it early. Getaway Kodo, new Paladin Secret. When a friendly minion dies, return it to your hand. It's not quite going to be strong with Secret Paladin, I think, because chances are the 2/1 minion is going to be what gets returned to your hand. That's not exactly what you want, but there are definitely some synergies here. I mean, like this with Tyrion is just insane when you think about it. Even this with the new Paladin Legendary isn't bad at all. Redemption with the new Paladin Legendary is pretty good too. Basically, it synergizes well with anything with the Death Rattle, assuming the Death Rattle still go off, which I think they will. And it synergizes well with anything with a Battle Cry. That's an added bonus that Redemption has. Unfortunately, it synergizes really badly with the Paladin Hero Power, but really cool card. I'm excited to see where this one goes. I think it will definitely see play, especially given the focus that there seems to be on aggro Paladin here, which becomes even more clear when I show you Mean Street Marshal. It's a 1 mana 1/2, but if you buff it, if it has 2 or more attack, you get to draw a card when it dies. Aggro Paladin, it's just a screaming aggro Paladin. Blessing of Might, Seal of Champions, Blessing of Kings. All of these cards will buff this and let you draw, which means you've kind of played it for free. This card's really strong. Even the one that came out more recently, the 1 mana card that buffs a card by 1/2. I don't remember what it's called, never seen it played. Could be played on this, who knows? Strong card. I think aggro Paladin will be a thing, and I think this card will see play. It's very early to say that, but I can see it happening. It's nice to see that they're giving Paladins more options, right? Because at the moment it's just N'Zoth or Murloc, so Paladin coming back in an aggressive way. I like Mark of the Lotus, give you minions 1/1. It's Power of the Wilds, second effect, but 1 mana cheaper. It's Token Druid Dream, works well with the ramp card we saw earlier. Very, very cool. Not really too much to say about it. It's just Power of the Wilds, second effect, but 1 mana cheaper. I can imagine, especially if Token Druid does end up being a thing with Violet Teachers, etc. I think this card could see play. Really strong with Living Roots, actually. I think this card will see play. Counterfeit Coin. Now, this is interesting because it's strictly worse than Innovate. It's the Rogue Innovate, which is strictly worse. So the Rogues already have Preparation. Now, you have to think, right? The synergy between Tomb Pillager and Gadgetzan Auctioneer is so strong, Gadgetzan, haha. And that's because it gives you the coin. The fact that you can now have 2 coins, 2 preparations, 2 Tomb Pillagers in your deck, you're going to have so many 0 mana cards to play in Rogue. Gadgetzan Auctioneer, I know they're trying to make mid-range Rogue a thing as well. Gadgetzan Auctioneer is going to be the way to play Rogue after this expansion. Whether or not Counterfeit Coin is quite good enough to put in the deck, at the end of the day, it is a 0 mana card that doesn't really do anything and will clog up your deck a little bit. I don't know if it's quite good enough, but the synergy with Gadgetzan Auctioneer, Questing Adventurer, Edwin Van Cleef leads me to believe that it probably is good enough. Like, imagine, right, you start with the coin, you start with this card in your hand, turn 1, coin, Edwin Van Cleef. It's just nuts. Coin, backstab Edwin Van Cleef. It's just completely nuts. So, I think this card will be playable. Not 100% sure, but I think it will be. Manic Soulcaster, another 3 mana 3/4 like Spellslinger. I'd argue that this guy's effect is better, though I don't know if it's great. Like, it only works if you already have a minion on the board, so the stats are fine. It's a 3/4, which is fine stats. If you can play this when you've already got Mana Worm or Sorcerer's Apprentice or Blood Mage Thanos or something on the board, then that's pretty cool. But I don't know if it's gonna be good enough. It might be. It probably will make its way into some Tempo Mages. Tempo Mages seem to be so kind of widespread as to how many different cards they can run that I don't doubt it, but I don't think it's like it doesn't quite strike me as a faceless summoner. It doesn't strike me as being that strong, which means that it's probably not, because even faceless summoner didn't end up being that strong. Finja the Flying Star. I don't know where this deck's going. It doesn't really fit in an anything can happen Paladin. Maybe Warlock. Maybe I don't know where this deck fits. I hope we see more Murlocs, maybe more class-specific Murlocs, so that it will fit somewhere. But I think Finja the Flying Star is awesome. I think it's a really cool card. It's probably gonna kill a minion at some point. I guess it depends when you play it. If you do play it too late, maybe not. But the fact that it's got stealth and, you know, 2 attack, it's probably going to kill a minion at some point. And if it kills 2 minions, which is possible, by the way, if it kills 2 minions, then that's completely insane. You get 4 Murlocs for free. I think this card is good enough. It's terrible stats, but the fact that you get so much tempo when you play it, like, man, it's really good, but also really slow. I think it's good enough, but I could definitely be wrong there. It definitely has potential, though. Lunar Visions, another kind of druidy ramp card. Draw 2 cards, minion drawn cost 2 less. Kind of reminds me of Farsight, which has seen some play in very specialized decks. I think Lunar Visions is worse. I think 5 mana is very expensive. I don't know why you choose this card over Nourish. I think Nourish is already so good, and that this card isn't much better. But I think once Thurasan rotates out, things might change as far as cards getting cheaper goes. Like, you might want more of that. So I can see it. I can see it in the future being a thing, but I don't think now is the time for Lunar Visions. I think Nourish is just a lot better. Kooky Chemist, 4 mana 4/4. It's like the Crazed Alchemist. Don't really have much else to say here. It's just neutral cards. Crazed Alchemist doesn't really see play. I don't think this will either. I think it's worse than Crazed Alchemist because you have to pay more mana for the effect. I don't know. Boring card. Let's move on. Pint-sized Potion. It's like Shrinkmeister. This card is going to be so crazy with Cabal Shadow Priest. It's going to be crazy with the new Shadow Madness card. What's it called? Potion of Madness. It's going to be so crazy with that. I think Pint-sized Potion's awesome. Priest is really getting treated here, and that's cool. This card, again, not too much to say about it. You'll be able to use it late into the game to make some great trades. You'll be able to use it to steal some minions. You'll be able to use Shadowwood Pain on something. This card's cool. This card's really cool. I like it a lot. Way better than Shrinkmeister, in my opinion. Friendly Bartender. This card is, again, pretty boring. At the end of your turn, restore 1 health to your hero. It's not quite a dramatic... It's not quite dramatic enough a healing effect to be great. It's just pretty boring, right? It's one of the boring cards. All sets of boring cards. Look at Pompous Thespian. It's boring. Let's move on. Dragonfire Potion. Now this card is cool. We've been crying for a replacement to Light Bomb, and I guess this is it. Deal 5 damage to all minions except dragons. Now they obviously want Dragon Priest to be a thing, and oh my goodness, Dragon Priest is going to be a thing. This card is going to be a 2 of, I think, in all Dragon Priest decks. Dragon Priests will be a thing. They're going to be at least tier 2, maybe even top tier if Blizzard pull their finger up enough with the Priest. This is an exciting card. All of the Priest cards so far have been exciting cards. And finally, Wind Up Burglebot. I can't actually see its stats at the time of filming this, so I don't know how good it is. When it attacks a minion and survives, draw a card. Okay, depending on how much health it's got, I guess is how good it is. I imagine it's only going to have 2 or 3 health. I might be wrong. If it's got more than that, it's pretty good. I don't think it's good enough to see playing constructed, though. I just don't think... It's just too meh. It's just too meh. It might be okay in Arena. I don't think this is going to get played in Constructed. I don't think there's a deck for it. Maybe there will be by the time all the cards get announced, but alas, we don't know yet. Whoa! Anyway, that's it. I've just gone through all of the cards currently announced at time of filming. I'm sure by time of releasing there'll be more out, and I apologize. We will get as many of these videos out to you as possible. Sorry for the speediness. I'm really excited about these cards. This is very, very cool. I'm in my element when a new expansion comes out. I love looking at these and giving first thoughts, and I love being wrong. Who doesn't love being wrong? Again, it's a bit impossible to analyze accurately, and it's impossible to do that until we see the full set. And there will be like set reviews and stuff later. But in the meantime, I hope you enjoyed the video. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the new cards, so do let me know in the comments below. Go and check out Hearthhead, give them a like on Facebook and a follow on Twitter, and really do comment with your thoughts on the cards. I really want to hear them. I'll be as active as I can be and reply to as much as I can. Thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful night.